Welcome back to my Iceberg series where we uncover football's darkest stories. In this video we will be looking at Scottish football, starting with the more tame known events, but as we go down the chart the stories get more obscure and far more sinister. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe, and I must warn you, some of the topics and stories shared in this video are quite disturbing, therefore viewer discretion is advised. Let's dive in. Surface level. Old Firm. The Old Firm derby between Celtic and Rangers is covered in religious and political differences. The hatred and significance of the result make this rivalry one of the biggest and most important in world football. I might do an entire video about the Old Firm derby, so let me know if you'd like to see that. Kingsley. Kingsley is the name of this terrifying mascot of Partick Thistle FC. Truly what nightmares are made of. The mascot was unveiled in 2015 as a way to draw attention to the club and increase merchandise sales by featuring him on the club's kit. New Club Rangers. New Club Rangers is a controversial phrase relating to the idea that the current Rangers FC is not a continuation of the old club which was liquidated, but instead a new entity with no connection. Legal issues and financial investigations have further complicated the matter. While the Scottish FA still recognise Rangers as the same club, the debate over its status will continue. Do you think Rangers are a new club or the same? Let me know in the comments below. Penaltygate. The incident occurred during the Old Firm derby match between Celtic and Rangers in December 2023 when Rangers were denied a penalty after Alistair Johnson punched a ball out of play while under pressure from Seema. This incident led to accusations of bias and corruption amongst the Scottish referees, which we will look more into as we dive down the iceberg. Cathkin Park. From the outside, this little playing field looks like your ordinary park. However, it was actually once the home of football and the place where 51,000 people once stood to watch the national team. This great lost stadium is truly one of Scottish football's lost gems. Celtic and Rangers EPL. The prospect of Celtic and Rangers becoming part of the English Premier League is an ongoing discussion. There are potential advantages, including heightened revenue, exposure and competition for both clubs, but on the flip side is the erosion of tradition and identity in Scottish football, along with the extended travel. Despite the persistent debate, the likelihood of Celtic and Rangers joining the Premier League in the near future appears slim but not impossible, given the fact football is becoming more and more about money. 6 red cards. A non-league footballer named Paul Cooper made football history for the wrong reason when he got 6 red cards in one game. The 39-year-old got his first red card for a second yellow. He then got 5 more reds for constantly arguing with the referee and refusing to leave the field. The player later confessed that he lost his temper and said that he had apologised to the referee for his conduct. However, Cooper was handed a 2-year suspension for his actions and his team were fined £150. Martin Waghorn versus School Kids. Martin Waghorn, a Rangers striker, was walking down the street holding a chippy bag when a schoolboy taunted him. Waghorn squared up to the child, demanding he'd say all of that directly to his face. The boy then repeated the phrase, to which Waghorn exchanged back a few words and then walked off. Shallow waters. Yerdas Selzavon. In 2017, a parody X account called Aberdeen with 2 N's FC claimed that Aberdeen had signed the Turkish midfielder Yerdas Selzavon. The problem is, the name, when broken up, says Yerdas Selzavon, a funny Scottish insult. Sky Sports fell for the prank and reported the news on their official live blog, causing much amusement and embarrassment. Yerdas Selzavon became a viral sensation and remains a figment of Scottish humour. Messi to Rangers. Then Rangers manager Alex McLeish tried to sign a young Lionel Messi on loan in 2001 after his assistant Jan Reuters contacted Barcelona manager Frank Rijkaard. However, Messi impressed Rijkaard in a first-team game, and so the deal was off. A few years later, McLeish also attempted to bring Iniesta to Ibrox, but again Rijkaard refused to let him go. The reason behind McLeish's interest in these young talents was because of the game Football Manager, which predicted their potential and ability. If Messi and Iniesta had signed for Rangers, they perhaps could have become Scottish legends, winning Rangers multiple trophies and potentially saving them from their financial troubles. However, this is one of the many what-ifs in football. Estonia, Scotland. A 1996 World Cup qualifier between Estonia and Scotland in Tallinn was abandoned after 3 seconds because the Estonia team were absent from the game due to a dispute over floodlights. Scottish chants of "one team in Tallinn" were sung, and then the supporters played their own game on the pitch. A replay was then organised months later, which ended in a goalless draw, helping Scotland qualify for that year's World Cup. English FA Cup. Scotland has a fair bit of history in the English FA Cup, with Glaswegian side Queen's Park reaching the final twice. The now dissolved Gretna FC also spent a number of years in the competition. There are unsurprisingly talks of Celtic and Rangers entering the competition, particularly if they join the English pyramid. The first dugout. It's hard to imagine a stadium without a dugout, however, it's noteworthy that they were non-existent until the 1920s. In the 30s, Donald Coleman, the Aberdeen coach, came up with a game-changing idea. His focus during games was primarily on scrutinising players' footwork and experimenting with possession football. To enhance his philosophy, Coleman ingeniously introduced a sheltered area below pitch level where he could sit and take notes. This new concept, dubbed the dugout, originated in Aberdeen and spread to football stadiums worldwide. Wembley Wizards. The Wembley Wizards refer to one of the most iconic Scotland national teams ever. The team was controversially mostly made up of Anglo-Scots, meaning they played in the English leagues. This originally underperforming side faced England at Wembley in the British Home Championship. The game had a dramatic start, with Scotland quickly responding to England's attack, scoring the opening goal after just 3 minutes. The second half witnessed a dominant display by the Scottish team, scoring 3 more goals and securing a convincing 5-1 victory over the English. The victory became legendary, one of England's biggest embarrassments on their own soil, and the iconic Scottish team earned the nickname the Wembley Wizards. Dundee United 1969. Dundee United have a very cool story behind their iconic tangerine strip. In 1969, the United Soccer Association in America invited European teams to a tournament, and they gave them temporary localised names. Dundee United played under the name Dallas Tornado. That is an American name if I've ever heard one. The club's then black and white kit was replaced with tangerine. The new kit was a hit with the fans and players alike, and the club's manager's wife loved the new colours so much that she suggested the club should wear the same colours back home, and the rest is history. P-Hub tweet. Championship side Inverness were forced to launch an investigation as the official Twitter account liked a graphic video from a certain website, much to the amusement of football Twitter, but to the disgust of the board of directors, who swiftly released a serious statement on the matter. The depths. Partick Thistle versus the SAS. In 2018, the Partick Thistle squad, unbeknownst to them, were kidnapped by the British SAS. The exercise, organised by their manager Gary Cadwell, was designed to push the players to their limits and included activities such as carrying logs, 20-litre cans of water, and stretchers with casualties on them. The exercise left some players shaken. Bryce Natambre ran away from the experience and had to be recaptured by 4 soldiers, while Jack Storer suffered a panic attack. Despite the emotional toll, the exercise was deemed to success by the team's manager, who believed it would help the players cope with the pressures of professional football. Berwick Rangers 1, Rangers 0. Berwick Rangers' 1-0 victory over Glasgow Rangers in the first round of the 1966-67 Scottish Cup is widely regarded as one of the biggest upsets in Scottish football history. Top of the league Rangers had won dozens of trophies, while Berwick Rangers, a 5th tier team, had only formed 11 years prior. The embarrassment was so vast that some players left Ibrox. Berwick Rangers also secured an astonishing 8-1 win in that competition before being knocked out by Hibs in the following round. Exploding eggs. Kirk Broadfoot of Glasgow Rangers suffered burns after an egg exploded in his face while he was inspecting 2 eggs he had just poached in his microwave. The incident left a Scotland defender with facial burns. However, to many people's disbelief, Broadfoot later claimed on a podcast that it was actually the glass container that exploded, not the poultry. Scammed club. Hamilton Academical was defrauded of almost £1 million in a sophisticated scam in October 2017. The club was targeted by phone scammers who convinced an employee to move money into 26 accounts to prevent theft. The scam wiped out the club's savings and left it in a financial crisis, and so the board instructed lawyers to write to the RBS to recoup half of its losses. But the RBS denied any security lapses. The Ackies only managed to recover about 170 grand after the fraud. Samurai sword chase. According to Chick Charnley, 2 young men approached him and his Thistle teammates while they were training in Rutchill Park, Glasgow, and began to insult them. When Charnley challenged them to a discussion after training, one of the men returned with a samurai sword. Charnley picked up a traffic cone and charged at the man, who then swung the sword at him. Charnley instinctively put his hand out with the blade hitting his palm. He then hit the man with a right hook to bring him to the floor. DJ manager. Raith Rovers, in their infinite wisdom, appointed Claude Anelka, a French DJ but brother of footballer Nicolas Anelka, as their manager and director of football in 2004 after Claude invested 300 grand into the club. Anelka's signing policy was to pick up lads he had played 5-a-side with in Paris from the lowest depths of the French league pyramid. Pre-season included playing 14-a-side in a local park, and unsurprisingly, the results were less than impressive, with Anelka resigning as manager in September 2004 after managing just 1 draw and 7 defeats from 8 games. Anelka's tenure at Raith Rovers was widely regarded as a complete disaster. Despite this, he continues to work in football and is currently under-16 head coach at PSG Academy, Florida. Shipwrecked. Another story out of Raith Rovers comes from the 1922-23 season, when the Rovers secured a commendable 3rd place finish behind just Rangers and Celtic. To celebrate their success, the team embarked on a leisurely tour of the Canary Islands. However, their journey took an unexpected turn when their ship, the Hyde and Lock, encountered rocks along the desolate coast of northwest Spain, resulting in a shipwreck. 13 players and 5 officials, some wearing pyjamas and dressing gowns, disembarked the doomed ship in the dead of night. Enduring challenging conditions for hours and days, they eventually reached the seaport of Vigo with the help of local organisations. Undeterred by the pretty scary incident, Raith Rovers persevered, and the team continued with their Canary Islands tour, showcasing true Scottish resilience. Training ground prank. Scottish footballer John McGinn fell victim to a training ground prank gone wrong when, in April 2015, his former St Mirren teammate Stephen Thompson somehow accidentally pierced a hole in his leg with a pole during a training session. The unfortunate incident resulted in McGinn sustaining a significant wound, forcing him to be sidelined for several weeks. Thompson, deeply remorseful, issued an apology for his unintentional actions. McGinn considered himself fortunate as the pole had narrowly missed vital muscles in his leg. Furthermore, despite having a small scar, McGinn expressed gratitude that the injury was not more severe. The Abyss. Ibrox disasters. The first Ibrox disaster was a tragic event that occurred during an international match between Scotland and England in 1902. The match was held at Ibrox and was attended by over 68,000 people. During the first half of the game, a section of the newly built West Stand collapsed, causing between 200 and 300 people to fall to the concrete floor below. The incident led to 25 supporters passing away and injuries to over 500 more. The disaster prompted an overhaul in stadium design, improved safety in football stadiums. The second Ibrox disaster occurred in 1971, leading to 66 people to pass away. I talk more about this in my other Creepiest Football Iceberg video, Danny Lennon's Island. Danny Lennon, a former footballer and manager, once expressed his desire to take between 20 and 25 kids to an island for 5 years to train them in football. He envisioned a disciplined environment with no outside influence where he could work with the children daily and teach them total football. While this idea may seem intriguing, it is important to consider the potential risks and ethical implications of such a dream. While I'm certain this idea is purely innocent, you can't help but think of the connotations with another certain private island. Corrupt referees. Referee corruption in Scotland has been a hot topic of discussion for years. While there is no concrete evidence to suggest that referees are corrupt or inept, there have been several instances where their decisions have been called into question. Andy Walker, a former footballer, believes that Scottish referees are at a disadvantage and that accusations of bias are rubbish. In conclusion, while there may be some corrupt referees, it is unfair to generalise and label all of Scottish referees as corrupt or inept. But what do you think about that? And what's the worst decision you've seen against your team? Let me know in the comments. Band celebration. Paul Gascoigne's flute celebration is one of the most controversial in football history. The celebration was first performed by Gazza in 1996 during a match between Rangers and Celtic. The gesture was a reference to the Protestant Orange Order, which is known for its flute bands. The celebration caused a storm in Glasgow and Gascoigne was given safety advice by the police. In hindsight, Gascoigne has spoken about the incident, saying a thug grabbed him round the throat and put a gun to his head before demanding he perform the action. Gazza repeated the celebration during a charity match in 2022, which was met with cheers from the crowd. It is important to note that the celebration was not well received by everyone and it was seen as sectarian by some. Celtic SA. Celtic has been in the news for the past few years due to allegations of SA at Celtic Boys Club, a feeder team to the Celtic senior side. Several former coaches and officials at the club have been convicted of offences against teenage players spanning decades. In recent news, Celtic is seeking to settle legal claims of historical abuse at Celtic Boys Club. Lawyers acting for the former players argue the Boys Club and Celtic were intimately connected, and the senior club were liable for assaults carried out in the youth setup. According to the Scottish Daily Express, 13 lives have been taken that could be linked to the essay that went on at the Boys Club. Celtic have always taken allegations regarding abuse at the Boys Club extremely seriously and has made strenuous efforts to investigate these matters. Phil O'Donnell. Phil O'Donnell was a Scottish footballer for Motherwell who passed while playing for the side in 2007. As he was about to be substituted off, he collapsed on the pitch and was pronounced moments later. A post-mortem examination was carried out in early 2008 and it was revealed O'Donnell passed because of failure in his left ventricle. Rest in peace, Phil O'Donnell. Increasing problem. Instances of misconduct in Scottish football have become more prevalent than ever. Whether it's the hurling of coins, dangerous flares in stadiums, discriminatory chanting, or physical attacks on players, fans, managers, or officials, such behaviours are on the rise. Despite past incidents serving as potential catalyst for change, little progress has been made. While rowdy conduct has historically been part of Scottish football, there used to be decent efforts by governing bodies, law enforcement and clubs to address it. The Scottish FA initially took a proactive stance on fan behaviour issues, but has seen a decline in such efforts over time. Gordon Neely. According to a BBC Scotland programme, Gordon Neely, a youth coach at Rangers in the 80s, was accused of abuse and rape by former youth footballers at various Edinburgh clubs. Neely had a high youth development role at Hibernian, and after sick allegations were made against Neely in 1986, he was sacked by Hibs, who did not inform the police or his new employer Rangers FC. Accused of more abuse at his new club Rangers, he was sacked again. Rangers claim to have informed the police, however, Neely's accuser denies this. After he left the Rangers in about 1990, he allegedly continued to abuse young players when offering one-to-one training and activity weekends for young footballers. If I have missed any stories, they may be in the video on your screen now.